Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a Western astrologer and Twin Flame channel, and this is a video about the Virgo Full Moon 2020 that occurred on March 9th, 2020 at 5:49 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. If you happen to be on the Eastern Seaboard of the United States, please check the internet for your local time zone. If you're watching this video, guess what? The full moon already happened. Had a little bit of a project delay I needed to get out and off my plate before I could dig into our full moon video this round. So my apologies for those of you who were anxiously awaiting this video much sooner. Normally, I like to get the videos out 2 to 5 days ahead of the new or the full moon, but this particular time, given my project load, it just was not going to be the first priority. It had to kind of come second. So that being said, let's get into these very yummy, very fun energies of the Virgo full moon that are going to continue to unfold over the coming weeks. They're in particular going to continue to unfold because this sensitive spot right here, where the sun is, Mercury is going to get itself right back up there at the end of the Mercury retrograde and illuminate some of the things that were unclear during this full moon. One thing of note that I want to point out is that there's very little air energy in the sky at this time. Thinking is not at its all-time highest or best. Rationality is not at its all-time highest or best. But that's coming. The clarity is coming. It's just not here yet. But let's get into some of the energies here so we can understand what this full moon really is all about. The full moon is sitting opposite the sun conjunct Neptune. So here's the sun and Neptune here in the sky. Here's the full moon in Virgo. And Virgo and Pisces, these are the signs that those two things are happening in. Full moon in Virgo, Pisces, sun, and Neptune. They have a very unique, highly misunderstood relationship that I feel the need to just speak on a little bit before we proceed, because it's really coloring the nature of this full moon, because this full moon is also linked to the preceding new moon, which was a deep manifestation new moon. It was like Source's new moon, because Pisces, which is where the new moon sat, is a new beginning coming directly from source, from the ether, from the cosmic oneness and the cosmic all. Virgo is the exact opposite energy, where Pisces is all things, so many of all the things that it's no one thing. Virgo really is the delineation and the discernment of one thing from another. It's attention to the detail that allows us to understand that this is a sheet, but that is a blanket. This is a shoe, but this is a high heel shoe. It's the distinction between details that allows us to understand nuance. And this full moon, ironically, sitting opposite Neptune and the sun, it's not exactly giving us the clarity about the details yet. That clarity is coming. Neptune, when it sits either in opposition, square, or conjunct any of the significant personal planets, doesn't really yield its best. Neptune has 2 octaves of energy, light and shadow, just like all planets and energies do. They're just an energy. They're not good or bad. But when it's in the shadow, when it's an opposition, a square, or a conjunction, Neptune can really lend some of its less desirable qualities, things like obscuring things, hiding things, causing things to slip away or slip through our fingertips, like trying to grab a fistful of water. Neptune can allow things to fall into the unseen world in a way that really compromises our ability to see clearly. So with Neptune so deeply in the mix, here it is at 18 degrees Pisces, Sun at 19 degrees Pisces, directly opposite full moon at 22 degrees Virgo. There's something we're not seeing, even though it's staring us in the face. I mean, we have the brightest lights in our sky here, the sun and the moon, full moon no less, illuminating whatever this thing is that requires us to see it. But Neptune, the outermost planet among the three of them, is sitting in the mix going, I'll just kind of make it a little harder to see. There's some kind of truth that's getting lost in the details and the minutia of our 3D existence with this particular full moon. And it's almost as if the messages or the necessary spiritual truth to move forward and the necessary spiritual messages to move forward are a little bit masked. They're obscured by optimism that, oh, it'll all work out. I don't really need to think that much about it, with Jupiter sitting in a conjunction to Neptune. That energy is bringing a lot of faith, hope, and optimism to a very complex situation. And we'll get into the complexities here in a minute. And we're kind of seeing this worldwide a little bit. I hate to bring, world and global events into it, but, there's a lot of people in a lot of places who refuse to take coronavirus seriously, even though that is quickly arising as a global crisis. There's a lot of people who are going, meh, coronavirus, it'll figure itself out. And not actively taking seriously the complications and threats that this poses to public health, despite the fact that, the evidence is right in front of our face. So that's one way that's an example of how this energy can be playing out on a global scale. You'll want to look for how this is playing out in your personal life, because as above, so below, in the micro, so the macro, or in the macro, so the micro. And so to complicate things even more, there's a little bit of self-defensiveness in the mix, which is not helping matters. So the self-defensiveness shows up down here with Mars and Pallas, god and goddess of war. And when they're in shadow, when they're in light, Pallas is just known as the protector, the feminine protector. Mars is known as pure ambition, raw passion, energy, and drive. But here they are together in the sign of physical manifestation, sextiling this Neptune-Sun conjunction. Now, sextiles are actually really beautiful energies. If you're doing the work, you get the results with sextiles. But with Pallas and Mars sitting together, Mars doesn't really need any help. On its own, Mars with no harsh aspects, Mars will do a great job of churning up our energies and moving us in the direction of, focused action, attention, and energy. But then you add an energy like Pallas to it, both of them, in shadow known as gods of war. They kind of start to feed on each other a little bit. And so there becomes, with Pallas sextile, this Neptune Sun conjunction, Pallas and Mars, and then simultaneously sitting harmoniously in aspect to this new moon. Houston, we got a little bit of a problem, just a tad. What we have going on here is it's almost as if anyone calls us out on the issue that is staring us right in the face before we're ready to address it. we may think that they're being rude, that they're the crazy ones, that they're the ones who are somehow overreacting. Again, pay attention to what's going on in the macro sphere and the global events, because those are the things that are going to be mirrored in our personal lives. And this is in particular true that we're not getting the best of Pallas or Mars out of this, because this Sun conjunct Neptune energy is also what is known to astrologers as in conjunct Juno, the partnership asteroid, and Juno retrograde at that. When you've got a retrograde Juno partnership asteroid, she brings balance, she brings harmony, she brings commitment and focus and teamwork to our one-to-one partnerships. But retrograde Juno is doing a bit more of a solo show and figuring out how to partner with herself. With an inconjunct energy, which is a non-easy, this is so much of a non-conversation between two planets that it's technically, that's what they call it. It's so much of a significant energy that they call it a non-conversation that is actually a conversation. It's like when two people are in the room and they're intentionally in a small room, intentionally avoiding talking to each other or looking at each other. It's like, oh, there's tension in this room. Why are these two acting so weird? That's the energy and in conjunction can bring into the mix. And with this energy here of, we don't really have to look at anything. What's the point? And then this energy here of the in conjunction, and then Juno being in a square, again, squares giving shadow sides of energy to self-protection and defensiveness, Pallas and Mars, you can see how tensions, like the energy in the air is kind of rife with tension, people on a short fuse. This is the energy of not really playing nicely with others at this time. Like, it's just not an easy time to play nicely with others. Now, the thing that we're actively trying not to see, that, we're allowing to kind of stare us in the face, but just straight up ignore, like we can't see it, we are going to get clarity on that thing coming forward. And again, pay attention to what's going on in the macro, because it will be reflected in the micro in our personal lives. That clarity is going to start to arrive on the 22nd of March, when the direct movement of Mercury is already direct, as if you're watching this video, but when the direct movement of Mercury sextiles Uranus here. Uranus is all about insight, that grand stroke of genius that flashes in our mind, the eureka moment. When we get Mercury, the mind, having a harmonious conversation with Uranus, we're going to get some epiphanies about that thing that's kind of being ignored right now. The next time we're going to get some clarity is when this moon here that's waning. Now, the moon moves a sign every 2.5 days. The moon is going to get out here to this spot where the sun is right now. It's going to get out here 180 degrees around the chart on about the 23rd of March. So that's a day later. And because it's a waning moon, it's going to be removing some of the bright lights that are obscuring our ability to see clearly in the dark. And so we're going to be able to have the chance to take off those masks, see what's going on in the subconscious mind as we approach the new moon. And that new moon happens right around the 24th. And then the third opportunity for clarity that comes will be on April 6th, when the direct movement of Mercury is fully out of the retrograde energies here. It's still going to be in shadow, but it's going to be out of the retrograde zone itself. But then it's going to hit the full moon spot at enough speed to turn the lights on as it approaches a sextile with conjuncting Jupiter and Pluto. And so what that really means is, that Jupiter and Pluto is really going to be kind of a grand test about who we say we are and are we worthy of whether or not we say we want to have and create. With Mercury hitting this spot where the new moon is going to be, there's going to be some illumination about whether or not we're really up to the task and whether or not source is really on our side and whether or not our subconscious mind can be trusted to help us get there. There'll also be some illumination about how we need to get source on our side, what we need to do, with source speaking to us about it, and how we need to unpack some of the things in the subconscious mind that are causing the complication in the first place. So this is a slow roll into clarity. This is not overnight clarity. This is not wisdom that, is easily found anytime soon. This is something where it's kind of like a gradual, oh, I get it. Got it. Okay, I see now. And so if you're frustrated with any of the humans in your life because of the way they're behaving, if you're frustrated with your own behavior, present company included at times, be a little patient with yourself because clarity will come about why things are going the way they're going. Okay? This is, interestingly, a really good time for a personal reading. And the reason why a personal reading would be so good is because as we get closer to these moments of clarity at the tail end of March and the very beginning of April, which is presently what I'm booking for, the beginning of April, this will be a time where, things that are revealed in the chart will land. You'll actually be able to hear them. One of the challenges I noticed during the Pisces Mercury retrograde and the Pisces new moon was how difficult it was to see ourselves clearly. And with Mercury going direct, retracing its steps, it's going to allow us to more clearly understand who we are. And a personal reading is a great way to unpack some of the challenges that you've been dealing with so you can set a course for 2020 that fully allows you to sidestep your own blind spots and not get in your own way. This will ultimately be an awakening about that, how we get in our own way a little bit. And if you do want to book a personal reading, you can email me at chrysalismoon@gmail.com. That's KRYSALISMOON@gmail.com. And when you email, you'll be greeted with an autoresponder, an automated email that just gives you all of the information about how you can book a session with me. I will say, just in honoring the energies of this moment, for those of you who are twin flames who happen to be watching the general video, I'll go more in depth about this in the twin flame video. Twin flame readings are still not available. Just in keeping with the energies of this time, I explain why in the twin flame video, but personal readings are definitely available for booking, both in 30-minute and 60-minute increments, and I look forward to reading for you. Okay, so like I was saying, this is going to be an awakening to how we get in our own way a little bit, particularly when it comes to our manifestations, because this particular year is all about manifestation with this heavy-duty energy that's sitting, moving extremely slowly through the sign of physical manifestation, Capricorn. Most of that energy you see there is going to be there all year. Nothing's moving, nothing's changing. That's it, folks. That's the year. You got to focus on what it takes to manifest this year. Do not look away. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not skip any steps. This is the work of 2020. What does it take to bring what we want out of the ether and into the world, out of our minds and into our hands? Okay. Some of this, confusion that we have going on, and some of the self-sabotage we have going on, is that with this particular new moon, Virgo and Pisces, we have a little bit of an ability to confuse wants with needs, and to mistake uh, fulfillment with momentary pleasure. We also have a little bit of an energy of letting our ego do the soul's work instead of the soul doing the soul's work. We think we can kind of muscle through it with ego. Check, I did that. With Jupiter conjunct Pluto, which is both, Jupiter conjunct Pluto, which I'm going to talk about more as we move through the year, because Jupiter is going to touch Pluto 3 different times this year. It's both humbling and it's fortifying. It allows us to really strip down to the kind of life we truly want to live, and it gives us the power to begin doing what we have to do to live that life. It's an ambition provoking transit. In addition to, eating a bit of humble pie, depending upon whether or not, we're leading with love or fear. That transit, and we're gearing up for it now. The energies of it can be felt now with Jupiter at the 21st degree of Capricorn and Pluto at the 24th degree of Capricorn. This energy is also going to illuminate how the structures in our life, because that's Capricorn, need to change in order to have the kind of life we actually want. And so structures can mean anything from your current financial configuration and arrangement, the job you have, the house you live in, the structure of relationships and the constellation of relationships you have that around your childcare or around your family dynamics. This Jupiter conjunct Pluto transit is going to illuminate, this is how this has to change in order for me to have the kind of life I want. I got it. I can't keep doing this. I have to start doing that. And so the Jupiter conjunct Pluto transit, which we're already starting to feel energy around, is going to show us what we've got to get rid of in order to have, in order so that a better life can come forward. This is a very internal and spiritual full moon, despite having some very one-on-one intimate aspects as well, I'll say. And this is the thing about the intimate aspects about this and the one-on-one aspects, because even though we can't really see the thing that's going on, we can feel it a little bit better than we can know it. We have 3 water placements, 1 air placement. We've got air being the mind and water being emotion. So we can feel something's going on, even if that we can't name it, during this full moon. And then there's this real interesting thing that's going on with the physical body while this full moon is playing out, which is fascinating to me, but it explains a whole lot. So let me show you what that's about really quick. We've got Uranus conjunct Venus under the light of this full moon. And this is like, in super mundane astrology, this is like surprising offers of intimacy and sensual connection. And it's the need for a lot of physical self-care. The need for that is kind of like at this all-time high, so that we can get grounded and get clear. This is almost like like knowing that you've got so much tension running through your body, you can't sit down and focus and work until you've gone to the gym and you've worked it out. Or some other such similarity. This could also, for some of you, being surprising money and windfalls, but I would be surprised if it was that way. But it could be that for sure. Mars sextile the Neptune Sun conjunction. So here's that Mars Palace energy again, the sextile that Neptune Sun conjunction. One of the other ways this can play out is it can feel really great to get a lot of physical attention. A lot of physical attention could show up. And it's like the physical attention that comes with a deep need for a spiritual connection to go along with it. It's like, ooh, yeah, we feel so deeply connected. We're eye gazing and now we're touching. Ooh, now we're kissing. Ooh, this is so deep. It's so real. Even though you know it's not, you can kind of get lost in the fantasy a little bit with some of this. Because guarantee with Sun moving as fast as it does and Mars moving as fast as it does, this energy is not staying for very long. It's just kind of like a fly-by-night, going out to a bar, meeting someone, locking eyes, incredible romp in the hay. A couple days later, you're like, wow, why did I do that? That's not even my type of person. But wow, the attention felt really good. And so there's a little bit of that. And then there's the moon loosely trining Mars. So here's the moon again, and here's that Mars Palace energy, and there's that small trine that we spoke about earlier. Yeah, and this is another way that the planetary energies can play out, because we just talked about all of these energies already playing out in one particular way on the spiritual and mental plane, but on the physical plane, this can also lend itself to a heightened desire for passion and intimacy and for feeling really alive. And it can make us all quite a bit more deeply passionate. And so you may feel some of that kind of physiological and biological tension rise, because all of this is the having a conversation with an earth sign, the physical body. And so there's just this tension in the physical body. This full moon comes with this incredible mix of spiritual hope and optimism, but not looking at the thing that's staring us in the face, and a needing to work out all of the dissonance and tension that that's creating through our physical bodies. Yeah, it's really crazy. Clarity is definitely coming for sure as Mercury moves forward, but this is more of a period of time where we've been working so hard on a particular math problem that it's like, and we're still not able to solve it. And so we have to just put it on the shelf for a bit, go for a walk or for a meal, and then come back to solve it later. Again, this is a great time to schedule a personal reading for me, as when the clarity is scheduled to come in towards the end of this month and the beginning of April is the next time I have openings. And so that'll be a perfect time for us to look at a chart and get the ahas out of this moment that we're having now. So a few energies are helping us along to solve this whole thing, this whole conundrum that we seem to find ourselves in. And it's an interesting thing. I really struggled with the last new moon video. For those of you who, saw the message about giving up hope, or not using hope as a crutch, because so many people, not so many, but there were enough people in the comments and in my inbox and in my sessions who were like, yeah, I gave up hope and I don't think anything good is ever going to happen to me. Giving up hope isn't about falling into a poor me state. That's just as damaging as being in an overly optimistic state. Giving up hope is about not allowing it to distract you from the work that has to be done to get the results you want. And so there's a couple of energies going on in this chart at this time that have been in play from the beginning of the year. Some of them are going to be in play through the end of the year. that are really about that are really supporting us in doing the work. And so I want to cover some of those now so that you can get a better idea of what the work is for you in your own life. The first one is this Chiron conjunct Lilith energy here. Now, this is one of my favorite energies so far this year. Chiron conjunct Lilith. And this is only with us for one more month. It's kind of been with us since January. Um, but Chiron and Lilith will be in the same sign almost all year. So we do get the benefit of some of them. Lilith just starts to play out in a very different way at the very end of the year. This is all about bringing healing to our ambition. The sign of Aries is about our ambition, the things we want to initiate and create, and bringing that healing to the places where we've gone after some of our dreams in the past and it's not worked out, where it's either blown up in our face, our ideas got shot down, we never quite got there. Bringing a healing to all the ways that we lack the courage to try again. And this is a beautiful time to start planning, to join a mastermind group or go to a conference that will help you get focused in on the present, leave the past and all of the aborted and sideways missions behind, leave those in the past, and get reinvigorated about your dreams, about the things that you want, and start to see that it could potentially be possible and real for you again. Because with so much Capricorn energy this year, like I said earlier, this year is all about doing the work to bring the dream out of the ether and into the world. And that is going to take a degree of ambition. Okay. The second helpful energy here is the Saturn Chariho conjunction. This is my second favorite energy of the year. And I love it because this one lasts a lot longer. Um, you know, Chariho, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the astrology, Chariho was the handmaiden of Athena. And Athena just had some basic rules like all the gods of Olympus did. But one of them was no mortal supposed to look upon me naked. If so, they will be struck blind. Basic, right? They go to the river. Athena takes off her clothes. Chariho's holding them. Athena's bathing. They look up. Athena sees a man across the river. She recognizes him to be mortal. Boom, strikes him blind. Chariho realizes, oh shit, that's my son. And she begs Athena, please restore my son's sight. He knows who I am. He knows who you are. If he had known what he was looking at, he would not have looked at you naked. He kind of knows the deal here. And Athena thought about it and thought about it because Chariho's son was a hunter. It wouldn't be right to take away a hunter's sight and then he wouldn't be able to hunt anymore. But Athena did not give back Chariho's son's sight. Instead, what Athena provided for her son was the ability to see without eyes. She gave him the gift of foresight and insight so that he could foresee what was happening without needing to see it in the physical realm. So, Chariho operates in that story as the divine intercessor. She is the one who takes our prayers to the divine, advocates on our behalf, so that the divine actually decides to bless us with something better than what had been previously taken away. But what I love about this is Chariho sits with Saturn, and Saturn this year, Saturn's all about integrity. Saturn loves to have things happening at the right order and the right time, allowing things to unfold in the way that they're meant to, not in the way that we're forcing them to. Saturn's really about patience and hard work, right? And so with Chariho and Saturn sitting together, essentially what we have is this energy of if you work your prayers, if you demonstrate with your effort what it is that you want, the divine intercessor will make sure that you get something better than what you previously had. because Saturn will actually take things away from us if things in our life are not in integrity. And so this is a helpful energy that we have all year long, that if we're just continuing to work on stuff, even in times like this full moon where things are confusing, not clear, we're kind of avoiding some stuff for reasons we don't even understand. If we're just continuing to do our piece of the work that we can see, Chariho intercedes on our behalf. And takes our prayers to the divine. And that's such a helpful energy to see and to know about here. Okay. And then the third helpful energy that's going on in this chart is the South Node conjunct Pholus here. And trine Chiron. Chiron and Pholus were centaurs. Both of them had tragic demises. To do with being poisoned. Pholus was to do with being poisoned by an arrow while he was, kind of being an innocent bystander. But both of these are really about releasing the energy of martyrdom, releasing the energy of self-sacrifice, and leaving behind being collateral damage to other people's issues, because the South Node is sucking all of this energy up. And placing the past in the past, so that because what it's doing, the South Node is approaching that solar eclipse point, that where our manifestation, the thing that we really wanted to create back on December 26th, the thing we set intentions for with that solar eclipse, South Node is now saying, and this energy that's keeping you from having it, you self-sabotaging yourself, I'm going to vacuum that up a little bit like a Hoover, so that you can get some of that out of the way. It's not as heavy upon you as you meet the next tests and trials of the year. This stripping away of those unhelpful energies from our manifestation intentions is going to go a long way as we move forward in the course of 2020. It's kind of going to be a year of no excuses as a result of that. No excuses at all. There's going to be no reason why we can't manifest what it is we truly want, just because we've got our ambition getting cleaned up. We've got, stories of self-sabotage and self-sacrifice being removed from the mix. We've got, a removal of things that stop us from feeling powerful enough to create what we want to create. And then we've got, the divine intercessor saying, well, if you're working for it, then I'm working for you. Okay. That's great energy here, but it's really about us doing our part. And then the last really helpful energy here is this Neptune trying the lunar eclipse point that we just had. So here's that lunar eclipse point. Now, solar eclipses are about beginnings. We can set intentions with those for manifestation. Lunar eclipses are about endings. We can set intentions with those about cycles we'd like to close out. Sometimes we don't get the choice. Sometimes the universe just closes stuff out and brings stuff in. It's typically the way eclipses work, but we can be somewhat intentional if we know that there are things we'd like to shift in our lives. But with this particular lunar eclipse, it would have set in motion an ending of sorts of an emotional pattern or relationship tie here in Cancer. Cancer is all about emotional integrity. Are we acting in alignment with how we feel? Are we being the truth of what we feel inside, or are we betraying ourselves? Cancer wants us to be the truth. And so the lunar eclipse would have brought forward an ending of an emotional pattern with someone in our family or soul tribe, because Cancer is all about family. Would have brought about an ending with someone or some pattern of emotional interaction or behavior that would have compromised the manifestation we're trying to build this year. So that ending, this Neptune Sun situation in the trine, we get the better aspects of Neptune, which is the spiritual understanding pieces of it. This is going to illuminate why that ending had to occur, why that disillusion needed to happen to bring forward, and it's going to bring forward a spiritual truth in due time. Some of you already got it. You're like, yeah, I know. I couldn't keep interacting with, fill in the blank person, my boss, my dad, my kids, and the way that I was interacting with them and still expect that I was going to have the freedom or the energy or the time that I needed to build this other thing that I know I'm committed to in 2020. The universe would have stepped in and created that ending, because whatever dysfunction was going on in the world of emotional relationship at that time, whatever codependency, whatever avoidance was going on, this particular full moon is going about the business of illuminating that for us. Especially now, because the ending by now, 60 days out from that eclipse happened on the 10th of January. We're now 60 days out from it. Whatever was going to end, it's ended. You know what that thing is at this point in time. And so the truth of why that things had to go the way they went, that's going to start to become really clear as we get closer to the end of March, the beginning of April, and on forward from that date. Okay. So like I said, this is a great time to get a personal reading. We can start to unpack this stuff for you, so that you can do the work of getting out of your own way, understand what the universe is asking you to focus on during this time, so that you can fully surrender to the work and not trip over your own 2 feet by not fully seeing it. So if you'd like to go ahead and get a personal reading, email me at krysalismoon@gmail.com, KRYSALISMOON @gmail.com. You'll get that autoresponder with the details. It'll show you how to book. And then once you've paid for your reading, then I'll send you the information to get yourself scheduled. A couple of other announcements I want to make sure that I give to you. I am going to be doing live mini readings coming up soon. A live mini reading is where you can ask a single question about your chart or someone else's chart, or if you've got a connection with someone, you can bring me the date, time, and location the two of you met. I call that your union chart. And I can give you the answer to one question about why things are the way they are, what's coming up, etc. And I'm explaining this here for a very particular reason. I had a woman show up to a mini reading the last time I did them, and she didn't have all of her birth details together. She wanted me to answer a question about one thing, but she only had birth details for another thing. And when I gave her the answer to the question she had for the details she had, she let me know she was very disappointed that I didn't give her the information she wanted. I couldn't do it. Not only could I not do it because I didn't have the information I needed to provide what she wanted, but also it is a single question mini reading. So come prepared with your one question, and I have to have the details, the date, the time, and the location for the chart you want me to read. And I can only do one chart during a single question mini reading, either your chart or their chart or the chart of the connection. So the dates for mini readings, single question mini readings, are going to be Saturday the 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 o'clock Greenwich Mean. And then Wednesday the 25th at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, and 10 o'clock Greenwich Mean. You'll be able to find me doing mini readings on my mini reading channel. They will not be on the channel that you're viewing this video on. They will be on K Moon Live. That is my mini reading channel. Be sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so that when I go live, you can be the first person to get notified, first paid, first read. All right. So if you want to do a single question mini reading, if we've just had a reading, you want to do a follow-up, this is a great way to do it without doing a full reading, okay? That being said, thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing. I definitely appreciate that. I look forward to hearing how all of this is resonating for you in the comments below. Thanks so much. Take great care. Bye for now.